Welcome to the Midweek message. We're taking some lessons from Proverbs chapter 26. And I'm going to be reading from today's English version of the Bible, sometimes called the Good News Bible. And we're reading in Proverbs chapter 26, beginning in verse 23 and going through the end of the chapter, which is verse 28. Proverbs 26:23. Insincere talk that hides what you are really thinking is like a fine glaze on a cheap clay pot. A hypocrite hides his hate behind flattering words. They may sound fine, but don't believe him, because his heart is filled to the brim with hate. He may disguise his hatred, but everyone will see the evil things he does. People who set traps for others get caught themselves. People who start landslides get crushed. You have to hate someone to want to hurt him with lies. Insincere talk brings nothing but ruin. And those are verses 23 through 28 of Proverbs chapter 26. So let's look at them individually. Verse 23, insincere talk that hides what you are really thinking is like a fine glaze on a cheap clay pot. You can use hypocrisy to disguise your true intent, is what this verse is getting at. And all of us have had the bitter experience of having people say one thing to us that seemed fine and flattering, but yet hid their true intent. They were not really on our sides. They were not really our friends. Insincere talk that hides what you are really thinking of. This morning, I was thinking that sometimes our politicians tell us what they want us to hear and actually hide their true feelings. That's the type of thing that this is talking about. And thank goodness we do have some good politicians as well. Verse 24, a hypocrite hides his hate behind flattering words. They may sound fine, but don't believe him, because his heart is filled to the brim with hate. He may disguise his hatred, but everyone will see the evil things he does. And those are actually verses 24 through 26 that are grouped together almost as a paragraph would be. Following up on the same thing, the topic of insincere thought in verse 23, a hypocrite hides behind his fair speech. And don't believe everything that you hear, because fair speech may actually hide deep, abiding hatred. So how do I know? Because I like to take people at their words. Well, the scripture says a person may disguise their hatred with their speech. That seems fine, and yet their deeds will out. Jesus said you'll know people by their fruits. And so verse 23 talks about insincerity in speech. Verses 24 through 26 talk about a hypocrite that has a heart full of hatred, but is prone to fair speech, to dissemble. Verse 24 or 27 says, people who set traps for others get caught themselves. People who start landslides get crushed. Be careful what you start, the things that you begin, because you never really know what the outcomes will be. And the scripture says that bad deeds, bad intentions turn eventually on the ones who begin and plan disaster for others. And verse 28 says you have to hate someone to want to hurt him with lies. Insincere talk brings nothing but ruin. And so we're back to insincere talk. That was the exact wording of verse 23. And if you hurt someone with a lie, you have to hate them. And insincere talk, lies, flattery, those things bring nothing but ruin. They are destructive at their very core.